어디에 배치할지 그리고 배치할 곳이 적절한지에 대한 논의가 아직 이루어지지 않고 있습니다. 또한 배치 시기와 관련해서도 재생산이 진행되는 상황에 따라서 결정이 내려질 것입니다. 그리고 이와 관련해서 훈련이라든지 배치 가능성이 논의될 것입니다. 그렇기 때문에 전직의 그 누구와도 아직까지 사드 배치에 대한 논의를 할 단계는 아니라고 생각합니다.
The first question from the U.S. delegation is from David Lynch with Bloomberg.
Yes, thank you. Secretary Carter, I have a question for you about Iran and then a follow-up, and Minister Hahn, I have a question for you about North Korea. The U.S. has said that Iran is providing the Houthi rebels in Yemen with unspecified forms of assistance. Mr. Secretary, can you provide any detail today as to what sort of weapons Iran has been providing, their value, and whether those shipments have continued since the Saudi offensive began 2 weeks ago?
No, I'm not prepared to do that. The only thing I can say is that the United States has made very clear its support to Saudi Arabia's security. We are working with the Saudis in their efforts in Yemen. And we're also working diplomatically to try to restore a situation of stability to Yemen. So we're in close consultation with our Saudi partners and others of GCC countries and others, and also in close consultation with those who are trying to work the political side of a solution in Yemen as well.
If I could follow, first of all, why can't you provide more detail? And then with regard to Iraq, Prime Minister Abadi will be in Washington next week. In the wake of the Iraqi recapture of Tikrit and the ongoing operation in Anbar province, do you think we're now at the point where it's the beginning of the end for ISIS, at least in Iraq?
The first part is I'm just not prepared to share information about what is happening in the area around Yemen. So I'm sorry. But with respect to Anbar, we have made progress in combating ISIL in Iraq. I'm not prepared to go as far as you suggest about saying it's over in Iraq. We're working with the Iraqi government, and you're correct that the leader is going to be in Washington next week. We'll have further opportunities to discuss that. But our approach in Iraq is to work through a multi-sectarian Iraqi government, which has command and control over Iraqi security forces, and they are the force that will sustain the defeat of ISIL on the Iraqi side of the border. I'm not prepared to say when that will occur. We are making progress. But that's the method that we are using to secure that progress.
And Minister.
My question is for Secretary Carter. In the recent interview with Japan, you mentioned that Korea, the United States, and Japan, the three countries, must look toward the future. And to interpret that, we can say that it means we need to let go of the past. But as you know, Korea and Japan have a very unique relationship. We are close neighbors, but also far neighbors, and the past has an impact on the relationship going forward. Even recently, Japan has been boasting its territorial rights over the Gupta Islands, and it has been worsening the relationship. So in this situation, what kind of role can the United States play to enhance cooperation between the three countries? And also yesterday at Osan Air Force Base, you mentioned that there will be new weapons deployed to the Asia-Pacific region. If you could be more specific with regard to what kind of weapons will be deployed for the Korean Peninsula.
Yes, and speaking of the future, I was referring to the agreements to share information in the future among the three militaries. which I think has great promise for the security of all of us. I was not referring to the past. We have a lot of respect for historical legacy issues in this region, and we think it's important, and we certainly hope for healing and reconciliation with respect to these issues. It is not for the United States to interpose itself between the parties here. But just to be clear, I was talking about future military cooperation in the field of information, which is extremely important. But you're asking a different question on a different subject, which is also one that I respect very much. With respect to the new weapons, I'll just name a few. I can't name all of them. But the United States is developing, for example, a new stealth bomber. You've acknowledged that. And that is one of the systems that is particularly relevant to the Asia-Pacific area. We're continuing to develop several new classes of naval vessels and deploy them rotationally to this region. You all know that we have a new stealth fighter aircraft called the F-35. We have electronic warfare and cyber capabilities that are the newest, and in fact, a general point is our newest systems are being deployed out here. Now, all course of this is being done in consultation with our allies, because everything we do in the Asia-Pacific region is done with our strong network of allies, Japan, the Republic of Korea, and others as well. That's our style of doing things, is through and with our security partners and allies, and that's the biggest part of the rebalance, is our continued work with our colleagues and our security alliances and partnerships. But there is an important part to it. And in general, our newest things and our best things are being deployed to this part of the world.
Thank you both. My first question is for Secretary Carter concerning the THAAD missile defense system. Do you have an estimated date on the production completion of that? And also, how specifically does the United States plan to defend its Japanese and South Korean allies and the tens of thousands of U.S. troops that are in Japan and South Korea from a potential missile attack? And I have a follow-up for both of you on China. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. The production schedule for the next THAAD battery, I don't know exactly. We can provide you with that information. It's well known, and that will begin a process in which we ascertain what possible deployments there are of that system, how many we're ultimately going to produce, and lots of other factors that go into it. And that's why I said it wasn't on the agenda today. Just in general, to get to the second part of your question, we try very hard to stay ahead of the ballistic missile threat. That's why, for example, we increased the number of ground-based interceptors in the missile defense system in Alaska, a decision made a short time ago. So our general philosophy is to try to stay ahead of the ballistic missiles threat, and that's very much reflected in our missile defense activities here on the peninsula, long-standing with Japan, in the United States, and elsewhere. It's important. We are on the side of staying ahead of those things.
And on China, with the Chinese Foreign Ministry saying that the South China Sea would be used for military defense yesterday, what is the U.S. prepared to do to prevent militarization of this dispute, especially when the United States has said that militarization of this issue is not acceptable? And what does South Korea think about that? Should China be able to put a militarization into this dispute?
I'm not familiar with the specific statement to which you refer. The United States has long had the position that militarizing these territorial disputes in the long-standing in the South China Sea is not the way things should be approached. And we are discussing that with our friends and allies in the region. And you know, one of the consequences of, I think, not taking territorial disputes and dealing with them in a multilateral and diplomatic fashion is it's hard to have friends and allies that way. And the United States has lots of friends and allies and partners in this part of the world. The Republic of Korea, Japan, the Philippines, Vietnam, lots of new partners and growing partners. And the reason for that is the way we conduct ourselves. We don't conduct ourselves coercively. We don't militarize situations like that. And I think that speaks for the strength of the American position in the Asia Pacific.
Now, with that, we'd like to proceed with briefing.
Thank you.